On the 9th year of my engagement with Lily, I was still waiting for a wedding that never came. After seeing her flaunt her love with the fake rich guy again, I gave up hope. I didn't bother with hysterical questioning either. I calmly tossed the engagement ring into the trash and booked a ticket to go abroad in 2 weeks. As I was about to board the plane, a text from Lily popped up on my phone. "Gary, why aren't you back yet? It's our engagement anniversary today. Did you not get me a gift?" I replied with a smile, "I'm giving you freedom. We're over." After I got hurt, Lily called, "Gary, did you mess with Chris again? Can't you be more mature? Chris is upset because of you." I didn't argue. I just hung up. Chris sent me a flood of pictures every hour, showcasing himself and Lily in bed. "Didn't you say you'd die without Lily? Let's see you do it." The last sultry video had Lily's cold words. "He'd better be dead." I looked at my bleeding wound, feeling lightheaded. Hearing Lily's words suddenly woke me up. I whispered, "Uncle Butler, call an ambulance for me." From downstairs, my mom's sharp voice pierced through. "Gary, what are you up to now? Can't you go a day without causing trouble? You're such a disappointment." Before passing out, I heard my dad sigh heavily. "Ignore him. He's faking it for attention again." When I came to, the sharp smell of disinfectant filled my nostrils. Dad entered with a stern look. Excited, I tried to open my dry lips, but froze as anger poured out of him. "Now that you're awake, get home. You've embarrassed us enough. Thinking about suicide just because people would think we're cruel to you." I smiled slightly. "It won't happen again." The nurse, watching his retreating figure, quietly comforted. "Doesn't seem like a real dad, more like an enemy." Her words stung, yet I returned a more sincere smile. My real parents thought I was an embarrassment. Strangers, not family, showed concern. I chuckled quietly. All these years, longing for family and love, I don't need it anymore. With bandaged wrists, I weakly returned home. Inside, the family happily dined together. Lily spoon-fed Chris dessert lovingly. When I arrived, my parents didn't even look up. They felt my suicide attempt was shameful, so they hadn't told anyone else. Chris, however, waved at me with a smile. "Gary's back. You look unwell, you should eat better." Lily frowned but said lightly, "Chris, don't worry about him. He's always been healthy. Take care of yourself." But when I was first brought home, Lily used to watch my thin face and dull hair with distress. She'd research recipes to help me regain my health and cooked me meals every day. She used to say with concern, "Gary, you're not well. You need proper care." Now she only cooks for Chris. I walked upstairs with an indifferent expression. Behind me, I heard Mom sigh. "If only Chris were our real son, that troublemaker is beneath Lily." Chris chuckled sweetly, "You're just teasing, Mom." When I was young, Lily, to whom I had a childhood engagement, took me out to play and I got kidnapped. To make amends, Lily's family promised the marriage would always stand. My parents adopted Chris to soothe their longing after me. But 9 years ago, when I was found, I found myself unnecessary. The day I returned was my adoptive mother's anniversary. At the cemetery, Lily held an umbrella over my head and handed me a bouquet to place on the grave. People said I held on to Lily for her family's money, but deep inside, I remembered that bouquet for 9 years. Even the most beautiful flowers wilt, just like my love for Lily, which drained away with disappointment. I called a senior overseas. He was surprised but then thrilled. "Junior, the professor will be so happy you're willing to come back." My eyes started to redden. "Junior, we've been holding the principal cellist spot for you. We all miss you. My home might be in B City, yet those who truly care for me are across the ocean. If I died, those who treat me like dirt wouldn't shed a tear." With nothing worth staying for at home, I decided to seek my own future. I booked a flight for 2 weeks later. While packing at Lily's house, I got a call from her. Urgently, she said, "Gary, come to this address." I closed my lips, replying calmly, "I'm busy, not available." She paused, unexpectant of my firm refusal. After a while, Lily spoke again, her voice dry. "Come now. You've always wanted to go to the amusement park. I'll go with you." I cut her off, I'll go wherever I want. Irritated, she snapped, it's Chris's birthday party, and the cellist canceled. Come and help. Ignoring her ramblings, I hung up. My phone's silent call log was filled with Lily's name pressing for a response. After I was found, Chris monopolized our parents' affection. Only Lily remained with me when I returned, trying to comfort my confusion with warm encouragement. But pity fades, and sincerity can swiftly change. During my 4 years abroad, Lily fell in love with Chris. I could have stayed with a renowned orchestra overseas. Yet for hollow promises of love and family, I stayed. And I became a lesser-known cellist nicknamed the Invisible One. When I first returned, I was asked to join Chris on a variety show. Watching him and Lily act lovey-dovey on screen, I grabbed her wrist only to be accused of being the third wheel online. I pressed Lily on why she didn't clarify or reveal our relationship. She dismissed it. Chris's career is rising. Our fans still need strengthening. For Chris's birthday livestream, Lily spared no expense hiring a top cellist. She gently declared on camera, if Chris wants the stars, I'd pluck them for him. With a sweet smile, Chris added, I wanted to invite Gary, but it seems he's still mad at me. I laughed at their cheap tricks. Yet fans bought into Chris's act. Last time, he stirred up the resentment of our shared fans, leading one aggressive fan to attack me with a knife in the parking garage. Luckily, it was just a minor cut on my neck. The security guards came in time and subdued him, but I was shaking like a leaf and cried while calling Lily to take me to the hospital. On the other end of the line, I heard the sound of lips smacking. After a long pause, she mumbled, Don't play around. I'm busy with work here. In the video, Lily affectionately ruffled Chris's hair, her eyes full of tenderness. I smirked, my gaze lingering on the ring on her slender finger. The sparkle of the diamond was almost blinding. I casually took it off and tossed it into the trash can without a care. The table was piled with birthday gifts Lily had given me over the years. From the necklace she handmade when I first returned home, to the perfumes you could find everywhere in duty-free shops at the airport. As the love dwindled, so did the thought she put into gifts for me. I just refused to see it before. I packed all the gifts I once treasured into a garbage bag and exhaled a long breath. When Lily came home in the evening, she nervously handed me a bowl of fish maw porridge. Gary, Chris is your brother. My work with him won't affect our engagement. I noticed the deep red kiss mark behind her ear and calmly said, I know. That year when I mentioned wanting roasted chestnuts, she went out on a snowy winter night to find them. That girl was long gone. I didn't want to think about whether Lily couldn't stand the loneliness or if it was a moment of fresh excitement. When she decided to betray our relationship under the guise of taking care of her brother, there was no hope for us anymore. On Lily's birthday, I had a flight leaving in 3 days. We agreed it would be just the two of us celebrating. But when I came back from studying abroad, I found out her birthday was still a two-person affair. Just her and Chris. I was used to making her a bowl of noodles and watching her eat with a smile. Lily hurried downstairs, buttoning her cuff, and said, I won't have the longevity noodles. I have plans tonight. Her voice cut off when she saw the empty table with just a cup of coffee. Noticing her gaze, I nodded and smiled. Go ahead. Be busy. Lily hesitated for a moment, then sat at the table. How about I book a restaurant for tonight? Before she finished the sentence, her phone screen lit up. I glanced over and saw a selfie of Chris in an apron in the kitchen. Lily, I'm cooking today, he had sent. Lily took a deep breath, her pupils constricted for a moment. She licked her dry lips. Gary, the company has a big project tonight. Next year, for sure, we'll celebrate together. I looked her straight in the eyes until she nervously tugged at her earlobe. A small gesture she often made when feeling guilty. I gave a faint smile. As Lily saw my smile, she gradually relaxed. She patted my back. Agreed then. Watching her leave in a hurry, I indifferently ate the sandwich in front of me. Who she spent her birthday with didn't matter anymore. That night, I came across Chris's side account. The photo showed Lily making a wish, fireworks exploding outside the window behind her. The caption read, This year, next year, many years of our future together. I let out a dry laugh and gave it a like. Moments later, Chris's messages bombarded in, Gary, the world is yours. The only thing I truly have is Lily. I know you two are engaged, but she loves me now. She hasn't left you because she doesn't want to hurt you. When I didn't respond, Chris's words became more provocative. Whether you admit it or not, it was me with her during the 4 years you were away. What's the point of staying with someone who doesn't love you? Expressionless, I tossed the phone aside. Sensing something off, Lily unusually stayed home the next day. Her eyes flickered as she grabbed my wrist. Where's our engagement ring? The bandages on my wound hurt, and I trembled as I spoke. I took it off when I was showering. Let me go. Seeing the sweat drip off my forehead, Lily was stunned and lifted my sleeve. You're hurt? Why didn't you tell me? I frowned and pulled my hand away. The stitches come out today. Lily's eyes darkened, and she blinked, pressing her lips. I'll take you to the hospital. After months, I found myself in Lily's passenger seat again, now adorned with soft pillows and blankets. Seeing me pause, she threw them to the back. Shortly after the car started, her phone rang. The ringtone was a sweet song sung by Chris. She glanced at me and saw me staring calmly out the window, hesitated, then answered it. On the other side, a boy's anxious voice spoke. Lily, my outfit for tonight's event is missing. Lily quickly reassured, Chris, don't worry. I'll bring you a new one now. As we drove through a deserted area, the car suddenly stopped. Lily seemed at a loss for words, her lips moving but not making sound. I smiled and looked at her, opening the car door. Surprised I got out so decisively, she only hesitated for a second. Then I was left alone by the roadside. That evening, when Lily returned home, I was sitting in the dimly lit living room. She approached me, trying to nuzzle close like she used to. Gary, I'll take you to the new rose garden tomorrow. Chris said it's beautiful there. The sweet scent of men's cologne filled the air, and I sidestepped away. Seeing her puzzled look, I gently said, Lily, I'm allergic to rose pollen. Awkwardly, she smiled and picked up the calendar on the coffee table. She noticed the big red circle marking tomorrow for our engagement anniversary. Lily sighed in relief and said with a smile, see you tomorrow. I quietly responded in my heart, Lily, there's no see you anymore. Early the next morning, I quietly left the villa with my luggage. As I sat on the plane, my phone buzzed with a text. Gary, today's our engagement anniversary. Didn't you prepare a gift for me? Every previous anniversary, Lily would wake to find a handmade gift by me on her pillow. But this time I smiled and replied, I give you freedom. We're breaking up. After sending it, I turned off my phone. At 30,000 feet in the air, Lily back home couldn't believe what she saw on her phone. She tried calling me but got the phone is off message every time. In her rush, she didn't even bother to put on her slippers before knocking anxiously on my door. After I returned from studying abroad, she claimed she was too busy with work and didn't want to disturb my sleep, so we stayed in separate rooms. Later, I found out she just didn't want me to interrupt her late-night meetings with Chris. Now, there was no trace of that gentle face she'd put on when knocking. Lily pushed open the door, her panic clear as day, finding the room unusually empty. Those gifts she once gave me were now piled up in trash bags. Our once cherished photos were gathering dust, untouched for who knows how long. She opened the balcony door and called, Gary, stop kidding around. Come on out. But the only response she got was silence. Out of the corner of her eye, she noticed a glimmer in the trash can. Her hand trembled as she picked up a ring, her eyes red with frustration. When the plane landed, I immediately saw Mark, my senior, waiting at the arrival gate. Next to him was Vivian with a bunch of knit flowers. I chuckled, took off my sunglasses, my eyes slightly wet. Welcome back home. The teacher found out you were coming back and gifted you the vineyard. Mark laughed. The old man is as generous as ever. With a soft laugh, I teased, well, I am the teacher's favorite student after all. Vivian, who had been quiet, whispered, now that you're back, don't leave again. I remembered the day before I flew back. She cried in the snow, telling me, Gary, if you're unhappy, Come back. I'll be waiting. Smiling gently, I patted her shoulder. I'm here to stay. When I turned my phone on, a slew of calls flooded in. They were all from Lily. I glanced at the slow-loading phone, my smile faltering slightly. Mark raised an eyebrow. You wasted 4 years being her background decoration. You went from a cello prodigy to someone no one knows. We should have never let you go back. I have rehearsals to catch, he added. Vivian will drive you back. She's been worried you'd change your mind if you came back. Just then, my phone rang again. This time, it was someone who surprised me. My dad's angry voice boomed. Gary, you troublemaker. Disappearing again? You scared Lily half to death. Get home right now, or don't you dare call me dad anymore. I blinked, unfazed by his tone. Home or not, I wasn't going back. My dad, caught off guard by my calmness, softened his voice a bit, confused. What do you mean? Catching Vivian's worried eyes, I gave a reassuring smile. I mean just that. I hope you, Chris, and Lily are happy together. After hanging up, Vivian sighed. What kind of life have you been living there? I chuckled at her concern. Thought I was in love, but I was just blind. Shaking her head, she asked, was Lily that girl waiting downstairs at the teacher's house while you practiced until midnight? We all thought you'd marry her when you went back. I blinked, a bright grin spreading across my face. Lucky I didn't. Turns out, the one who traveled so far just to see me was hooking up with someone else. In that moment, Lily's call came through again. I couldn't figure out her persistence. Lily, what do you want? I asked, annoyed. Only her breaths were audible on the other end. Just as I was about to hang up, she spoke in a low voice. Gary, where have you gone? I'll come get you. I pinched the space between my brows, irritation flaring up. We've broken up. Don't you understand that? Did you think you hid things with Chris that well? Leaving me to watch sunrise with him, comforting him while I was hurt. Do you expect me to be fooled by gossip? Each word drove a stake through her heart. Quietly, barely audible, she said, Gary, it's you I'll marry. I added mentally, but your love and mind were elsewhere long ago. That call ended when I blocked her number. Her parting words, Gary, I'll make you come back to me, lingered. When news of her and Chris appearing on a couple reality show broke, everyone in the band watched me cautiously. Little gifts kept showing up in my practice room. Amused, I asked Mark about it. He just handed me a bag of homemade cookies from my sister-in-law, looking sympathetic. They're worried about you. Those scars remained on my wrist. My heart felt nothing. Every night, Vivian waited for me to finish rehearsals, taking me out for warming midnight snacks. Watching her focus on her laptop as she waited, I felt a profound sense of calm. She was the one truly waiting for me quietly, offering comfort. Lily's game to force me back used her and Chris's TV show as bait, not caring if it'd make me suffer. Yet my bandmates, the ones who truly cared, showed their support quietly. Chris posted a picture from a secret account. A woman's bare back with the caption, "She's mine, no one else's." Unbothered, I logged out, wiping the cello bow. While worrying over my departure, they're also with someone else. Is that your idea of love, Lily? Later, I got a call from home. My mom, usually gentle with Chris, spoke sharp as glass towards me. Ungrateful son, where have you been disappearing to? Think this family can't do without you? Bringing you back was a mistake. Our home was peaceful until you returned. Stay away, Chris is better for Lily. I cried over the preference my parents showed Chris. Lily had told me once about how my mom cried when I was taken, and Dad had paused work to search for me. Yet, during the years I was gone, that missing love had seamlessly transferred to Chris. When they found me, I stood awkwardly in their extravagant living room, wearing socks with holes. Chris threw himself into his mom's arms, sniffling cutely. Mom and Dad have a son now. Does that mean you won't want me anymore? At that moment, my parents focused only on comforting the little boy in their arms, not sparing a single glance my way. Only Lily, holding my hand tightly, whispered, "Don't worry, I'm always here. The promises made in youth don't hold up." Mom and Dad's attitude towards me remained the same, cold and indifferent. Even the girl who once stood by me is no longer my support. Seeing my silence, Dad picked up his phone, warning me sternly, "We know about them filming the show too. Everyone puts on a performance outside. If you can't accept that, how can you talk about marriage? Gary, we're not going to keep letting you act recklessly. You don't want to marry Lily, so it works out for her and Chris. Even now, they think I'm just being stubborn, waiting for Lily to come find me. But the woman who said she'd give me a home was doing all sorts of intimate things behind my back with my foster brother. My own family never took my side, no matter what. Gary, I got you the dessert you mentioned. Come try it." I looked up to see Vivian's kind face, calling to me with warmth. I had only casually mentioned that dessert shop, which usually had a line out the door for 2 hours. Seeing the sweat on Vivian's temples, a smile involuntarily appeared on my face. Coming. As the orchestra performance drew near, I spent more and more time practicing in the rehearsal room. I hadn't checked any news from home. On the day of the performance, I stood as the lead cellist. As I slowly drew the bow across the strings, I saw my teacher proudly smiling and holding a thumbs up, and Vivian in the audience. The genuine applause from the audience filled my ears. As I bowed, my teacher held my hand. "After 4 years off stage, you're still the genius cellist that amazes them." Vivian pulled out a necklace and put it around my neck. The pendant was a diamond-crafted cello. "Gary, you'll always shine the brightest for me." After the performance, fans moved by my music began searching for past performances. But the last one online was from 4 years ago. Before returning to the country, I confidently played my original composition on the theater's central stage. During those 4 years back, I was merely a shadow for Chris, even getting criticized by his fans. Where did they find this subpar cellist? So young, what do they know about music? Definitely a pretty face, maybe a new recruit from Chris's company trying to get famous. Now, those insults and slanders are behind me. My cheers and applause finally began. News of genius cellist returns to the stage and orchestra's lead cellist reappears spread back home. Unexpectedly, I saw someone waiting outside the orchestra building. Lily, not sure how long she'd been there, had a layer of light snow on her shoulders. When she saw me, she put out her cigarette, trying to smile. "Gary, you didn't tell me you were performing with the orchestra. Your parents are asking about you too. When are you coming home?" I stared at her blankly until she got nervous. I finally spoke. "Have you forgotten? We have no relationship anymore." She sighed, eyes showing a sadness I couldn't understand. "Gary, my future husband can only be you. We'll have a happy home." Maybe the novelty of Chris wore off, and she started missing our time together. Or perhaps she didn't want to give up on our 9-year relationship. But none of that matters now. Your couple's show with Chris isn't finished filming yet. Lily, anyone who betrays love isn't fit to have a home. I scoffed without emotion. Behind me, Vivian's voice called out, "Gary, today's afternoon tea is chestnut cake. Don't waste time with irrelevant people." I ignored Lily, turning to head upstairs. Coincidentally, their show's final filming location was in France. The orchestra manager hesitated, asking, "Gary, a local TV crew wants to film at our performance. Is that okay?" I paused, shrugging. "As long as they don't interrupt us." Chris was unhappy with Lily's reaction after I left, so he suggested they watch the orchestra perform. In the dressing room before going on stage, Chris blocked my way to the door. "Gary, you've already left. Don't cling to Lily." I looked at him oddly. "Are you waiting for Lily to propose to you?" His face turned red with anger. "If you hadn't come back, the one marrying Lily would have been me. In Chris's selfish mind, my parents, everything I had, should be his. When I went to study abroad years ago, he cryptically said at the airport, 'You shouldn't leave the country.' Looking back now, Chris probably planned everything out. Whether it was seduction or genuine interest, Lily ultimately became his. I passed by him coldly. Chris crossed his arms, smirking. "Pretend to be indifferent all you like. I want to see if you regret this." The orchestra performance was successful, with my cello performance marking the closing. The audience's response was overwhelmingly positive, but online, Dirt about me was heating up. A renowned critical music reviewer harshed my performance. Uninspired, dull, not deserving of a cello. Even holding it wrong, yet another viral sensation manufactured by hype. People unfamiliar with the cello believed her stern review. Coincidentally, someone leaked photos suggesting I was involved with the rising star Chris's girlfriend. In the photos, Lily was laughing, holding onto my arm. There were also shots of us at the supermarket or shopping together. Chris pitifully posted, "Don't blame Lily. Some people just choose to tempt others. Her heart belongs only to me." Chris's fans lashed out, saying I was shameless. Seriously, saw him getting too close to Lily on that show. Guess he's just a homewrecker. Running off abroad, pretending to be a cellist. Really thinks he's hot stuff, huh? Vivian looked at me with concern, pointing at her phone screen. "Gary, put down your phone for a bit. Chris is just plain toxic and dumb. He thought labeling me as a homewrecker would stop Lily from getting back with me and ruin my career." Before I could clear things up, a photo of me with my teacher got dug up by the internet. Some busybody commented on my senior's social media account, asking why a fame-seeker like me could be pictured with a celebrated cellist. Senior replied, confused, "The person you're asking about is the last student of Professor John. Who's this fame-seeker?" Lily Group's official account quickly posted a statement. "Mr. Gary has always been our president's fiancé." Chris's fake account and mine got exposed as well. I had been documenting my relationship with Lily for 9 years. Went to see the fireworks with Lily today, so beautiful. Gave Lily a birthday gift, a cello piece. She said she'd watch all my performances. My brother broke the bracelet Lily gave me. It hurts. The days studying abroad are dragging on. I can't wait to return to see Lily. Lily stood in the snow for hours just to see me for 5 minutes. The last update was after I came back. Everything changes with time. Chris posts on Facebook were all taunts. Pictures of Lily asleep, carefully selected gifts, and the two of them holding hands. Chris's moves backfired like a boomerang. In City B, Lily, with anger, questioned his motives. With a cherry nose, teary-eyed, he said pitifully, "Lily, I just love you too much." But Lily pushed him away, full of disgust. "You said you wouldn't ask for anything in return and wouldn't bother Gary. Didn't you post all these provoking photos and words on Facebook yourself?" Tears ran down Chris's face, making him look pitiful. "Gary has left you, and I just wanted to teach him a lesson for you." Lily coldly sneered. "You wanted to marry me and wreck Gary's career. Clever plan." With clenched fists and veins popping, she dialed my number, but I'd blocked her long ago. She spoke of missing me while tangled up with Chris. Found our 9-year relationship bland, chasing a thrill with my stepbrother. Every single thing led us down separate paths. "Gary, I ended up losing you. I no longer pay attention to the drama back home." Lily sometimes sits in the audience when the orchestra performs, but I've never once seen her. On the day of my solo cello performance, Vivian was even more nervous than me. She tried to calm me, pretending everything was cool. "Gary, don't worry, after it's over, I'll take you to see fireflies." Her attempt was poorly done, but it made me laugh. I looked at her and said, "With you here, I'm not afraid." Surprised and delighted, she looked up at me. The performance ended smoothly. During the thank yous, I mentioned my teacher, senior, everyone in the orchestra, and Vivian, who waited for me. Lily frowned deeply, her lips tight, seeming uneasy. On leaving the theater, Lily blocked my way with a bouquet of roses. "Gary, I know I was wrong. Chris ruined his reputation, and his parents gave him some money and kicked him out. Gary, our 9 years were more than just a number. I got blinded by novelty but won't make the same mistake again." I stepped back, covering my nose, and looked at her with a detached nod of my head. "You forgot again that I'm allergic to roses, Lily. You still think I'm just sulking. You left the last time for a call from Chris. The first photo Chris sent me was of you lying on his lap, your fingers in his hair. Whenever I see you, those disgusting images come to mind. To me, you're just a stranger, revolting at that." Lily trembled, squatting down, covering her face, and sobbing silently. With nothing but indifference, I brushed past her, heading towards Vivian. Since that day, I never saw her again. On the day I married Vivian, it was during the splendid blossom of spring. We held a wedding on an island in France, just like I dreamt. Unexpectedly, some turned up uninvited. Somehow, people back home found out about my wedding. My parents and Lily awkwardly stood at the chapel gate. Dad seemed to have aged a decade, no longer standing tall. Mom lost her elegance, fine lines etched in her eyes. Vivian carefully glanced at my expression. She put her arm around my shoulder. Should we ask them to leave? I shook my head. No big deal, just don't let them cause trouble. Vivian gently said, let them see your happiness. Then, when Vivian kissed me as we exchanged rings, I heard a faint sniffle. My parents left, looking back at each step. But I never called out to stop them, no matter their longing looks. Before leaving, Lily handed me a prettily packaged gift box. Gary, it was for our wedding, something you wanted. I chuckled, interrupting her. Lily, don't come anymore. I'll just see you as fake. I casually tossed the gift into the trash. I grabbed Vivian's hand and turned away. The cello piece I composed at 18 for the one I loved, left as just notes. Later, Chris blew through the money his parents gave him. Lily hired someone to lure him into gambling, leaving him heavily in debt. After finding out Lily orchestrated his nightmare, Chris waited outside her villa for days. Kicked out by security, he stayed bitter and lay in wait near Lily's company. In the pre-dawn hours, Lily didn't sense the danger as Chris dragged her with his car for dozens of meters. With amputated legs and stocks bought up, Lily became a recluse after her company changed hands. The past all but a faded dream to me. The orchestra's final concert tour stop was back home. Daisy and Vivian came to pick me up, her big, round eyes fixated on a spot. Following her gaze, I saw nothing. Once in the car, she said in her sweet little voice, Daddy, there was a lady in a wheelchair who seemed to cry when she saw you. I paused, then patted her soft hair and kissed her forehead as she frowned slightly. It's just a stranger. Sweetheart, nothing to worry about.